It was 1956. America stood at the pinnacle of its prestige, and the Rockefellers were the nation's first family, not only of wealth, but also of power.
If there was an establishment in America in the 50s, it was these Rockefeller brothers. These young men have taken their place as these absolutely unique members of a unique family. They're, in some sense, the very tip of this kind of the American century, the American experience, this optimism that buoys America in the post-war era.
They were, in many ways, at the center of business life, conservation life, environmental life, political life. They were in the middle of it. That's exactly where they wanted to be, and they loved it.
At a 1991 closed-door meeting of fellow internationalists, billionaire and former CFR chairman David Rockefeller praised his media allies. But his confidence that his words would not leave the room was later broken.
We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and restricted their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government.
And herein lies the dilemma that we all face. Let me illustrate. Improved public health has caused the world's infant mortality rate to decline by 60% over the last 40 years. In the same period, the world's average life expectancy has increased from 46 years in 1950s to 63 years today. This is a development which, as individuals, we can only applaud. However, the result of these positive measures is a world population that has risen during the same short period of time geometrically to almost 6 billion people and could easily exceed 8 billion by the year 2020. The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident. But this persistent window and this present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built will not be here for too long. Already there are powerful forces at work that threaten to destroy all of our hopes and efforts to erect an enduring structure of global cooperation.
Welcome once again, everybody, to NWCZRadio.com, Channel 1's Down the Rabbit Hole. My name is Big D.
And I'm Brandon.
And it is, as always, good to have everybody along. We enjoy our time together with you, and we hope that you're having a great summer wherever you're at. I guess if you're on the other side of the world, it is winter. I don't know.
Yeah, which is weird. I was talking to a friend about that who just got back from New Zealand, and she was talking about how, they were going into winter. And I'm like, oh, I always forget that the southern hemisphere it's winter. When it's summer here, it's winter there.
Well, we have a worldwide audience, and so we like to, greet everybody accordingly.
Yes.
And remind everybody that you can listen to us on friendsradionetwork.com and reach out to us at downtherh@protonmail.com. A lot of great emails this last week. It seems like people are in the mood to chat. So good suggestions for upcoming shows. And we always love to interact with you, the listener. So if you have a thought, a comment, you have a show suggestion or a question, feel free to email us. We generally get back to you in pretty good order within a day or two, generally.
Yes.
So I heard you're getting a little bit of sunshine over there.
We are. It's actually up here in the Washington area. It's in the 70s today, which for us is warm. So, finally. So yeah, I was in a golf tournament today, so I am very nice and red. So
You forgot the sunscreen is what happened.
I never wear sunscreen. What'll happen is,
Wait. You're some kind of like on-site health safety guy,
Yes.
and you're not wearing sunscreen?
No, it's like I tell everyone, those who can do and those who don't teach. And that's why I'm a safety professional who teaches.
There you go.
I'm not good at the safety, but no, Amber drives her nuts. I will get burnt and then not really like burnt, but I'll get kind of crispy. And the next morning I'll just wake up with a nice tan.
Nice. Yeah,
So
that's the way to do it.
as long as I don't get like burnt, I'm okay. So
Right.
I'm a little red today. By tomorrow, it'll be a nice tan. And then I've got an event I'm doing that's a 24-hour race event. So I probably won't wear sunscreen then either, but whatever.
Well, let's get into the topic of today because we could do 2-3 shows on this family, but we're choosing not to because we want to move on to other families, and we really just want to whet your appetite as usual going down these rabbit holes, and we want to give you as much information as we can packed into a show.
You definitely want to go more into these guys later.
Oh, absolutely. And if you need any resources or want some good reading material, just email us. I'll be glad to send some to you because there's so much out there. And as always, with these families, there are two sides to the story.
Yes.
You have the official written history, probably controlled by the family, most likely controlled by the family, especially in this case. And we're talking about the Rockefellers today. One of, if not the most famous, certainly American families, and probably any family in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a time in the United States where Rockefeller was synonymous with living the high life. I want to be a Rockefeller. I'd love to hang with the Rockefellers, or I'm balling like the Rockefellers, because the Rockefellers, one of the richest families in the entire world.
Yeah. And I mean, at one point, a lot of people will say that he was the richest man ever.
We're going to get into that because there's the quote official tally of the family's worth, and then there's the actual worth, because these guys love to play shell games with their money.
Yes.
They are masters, really on par with the Rothchilds as to how they shuffle their money, hide their money, split their money up, create foundations, pay themselves through these foundations. It's astounding. It's absolutely astounding what this family has done. And it's all the men. That's the one thing about this family. These were all the men who did this. The women were arm candy. They were treated very well. I think one report I read said amongst all their properties, they had at disposal 1,500 servants total through all their properties, their Manhattan apartment, their Caribbean compounds, their places in Spain, and everywhere, all over the world. There's some huge ranch here in Texas that's owned by the Rockefellers, and it's staffed by like 150 people at all times.
That's insane.
Yeah, so the women were pretty much just lacking for nothing, and they were there to enjoy the Rockefeller style and kind of run some of their charities and their philanthropy and so forth, which was all a show. That's all it is, was a show.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that I noticed when I was researching them. There's a lot of show on that, which a lot of people really point out. Oh, look how philanthropic they are. And they're really not. No,
they're not. We'll get into that. But so we're going to start with the sort of official history. There are so many books, so many documentaries, so many YouTube videos. The history of the Rockefellers and how they got their money and all that stuff is pretty well documented. So we'll just dabble in it, just for those of you who don't know the story. But if you really want to go into a deep dive, it's everywhere. It's not hard to find. And basically it started with John D. Rockefeller Now, his dad was interesting. His dad was quite the character. He was not rich, and he was a snake oil salesman. He was a bad dude. He had to leave a state because he got a 15-year-old girl pregnant. He went around selling oil as a cure-all. He left his family and kids at one point and just disappeared. But with his sons, and John D. Rockefeller was one of his sons, he made it a habit to con them. And he would bring stuff home and make them either work for it or trade for it or whatever. And it became a game to him to get the best of his kids. And it was a success if he conned his kids. They got less than he got out of the deal. And then he would explain to them how he did it and that they should always be alert, stay sharp. It was all about power, money, manipulation. And his pride and joy was John D. Rockefeller. John D. learned the most, and he took to heart what was going on. The other brothers were not so into it. They felt cheated, and they thought their dad was a jerk. But John D. learned a lot from it, and it fed into his greed, his manipulation, and he is the one who took the ball and monopolized oil with the Standard Oil Company.
Yes. And it was quite fascinating the way he did it.
Oh, he was the mafia. He was the CIA. He would literally run other places out of business through lying, through manipulation. At one point, he went around to all his competitors' business recipients. So if somebody, let's say I was buying oil from the Global Oil Company, not Standard Oil, he would come to me and offer me all kind of incentives. Even if I bought from the other company, I had to pay kickbacks on their shipments. So he was making money even if the other company was selling their oil to a customer. And he did this over and over and over again and essentially ran them all out of business. Or I also read a case where there was an oil business that was barely hanging on. They went to another country, and I think it was like Venezuela or one of the Latin countries, made a deal with them. Well, John D. had gotten some sort of inside information and had already gone down there and bought the company, but put in like a puppet management team. Didn't tell his competitor that he was actually the owner of the company. And so when the guy cut the deal, it was actually John D. Rockefeller who he was doing business with, and then he just destroyed this poor guy.
Yeah.
But in 1890, they were global and started shipping like kerosene to China. They had branched out. But in 1909, they were sued under the federal antitrust law, the Sherman Antitrust Act, and they had to bust up because they controlled 91% of the production and 85% of oil and 85% of the kerosene sales in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So 1911, they were forced by the U.S. government to dismantle the company into 34 different companies. One of these companies, of course, was ExxonMobil, Chevron, and BP. Now, and here's the problem. In busting up these companies, he had to give up his stock to these companies, but he did so only backroom deals, under the table deals, to where he still maintained a presence and retained profits from them. Mm-hmm. He just wasn't the head of the company. He was like on the board of the company, or he was like a silent partner in the company. And so he still pretty much ran everything. It just wasn't under the banner of one name.
Yeah. Which is stuff that he was famous for. He was very good at stepping away, but not really.
No, he was very much into power, very much into money. And here's the odd thing. He apparently, from a lot of things I read, he was very, very religious. I don't know what that means. I never got confirmation as to where he went to church.